Okay. So come to standing. We are going to come to a seated position quite quickly, but I know some of you like to stand just to stretch out the muscles. And I'm sure I've said this before. This is the theme of today is inviting the breath into us, which balances a lot of things, including our nervous system. But I also wanted to say, because of course I would do, just how many benefits there are documented for yoga. I'm sure you know that anyway, but really, as we get older, yoga is just so perfect for keeping everything gently moving. Anyway, so just start, as we so often do, by lifting and rolling the shoulders, pressing the feet down into the earth. Turn your head from left to right to left, and again back to the right. And then breathing in, raise your right arm, stretch up, and just slightly go over with the right arm to the left. You can bounce in and out. Use your left hand to support you against your left thigh. Breathing in, stretch up, and breathing out, lower your hand. And then bend your left arm, snaking it up, stretch up, and then just go with your left arm to the right. Feel with your body that you're not twisting, but you're between two panes of glass. Breathe in, extend upwards, and breathing out, lower your arms, your left arm. Lift and roll your shoulders. Once more, raise your right arm, stretch it up, and turn your head to the left, away from your right arm. And maybe take an in and an out breath here. It doesn't matter how far you turn your head, it can be in millimeters. When you're ready, bring your head back to the center, and breathing out, lower your right arm. And transferring to the left, stretch your arm up, breathing out, turn to the right, stay here. Breathing in, come back to the center, and breathing out, lower your left arm. Lift and roll your shoulders. So, a different take on balance. You might like it, you might not, I don't know. My balance isn't great, which I don't know what that says about me, but still. This was in systematic training I did, that you just literally lift one foot and just stretch it out, and then the other, so that you're almost kicking away from side to side. So I'd be interested to know, it's encouraging or inviting you to balance, but how far you kick your legs is up to you, and it's just going from side to side almost. So it's encouraging your foot one at a time to balance, but not for very long. And then just come to swaying from side to side. You can lift your heels. Apart from balancing the pelvis and the brain hemispheres as you're going from side to side, you're moving all the energies as defined in the Eastern philosophy, and you are also doing a mindfulness exercise, because it's hard to hold thoughts and thought patterns while you're going from side to side. You'll always come back to your thoughts, but the intensity of the connection might be broken, and so you reconnect in a slightly different way. And then start to slow it down. And then gently come to standstill. Lift and roll your shoulders and press your feet into the ground, just a Tadasana or mountain pose, pressing your feet into the ground. Tense your knees and then relax them. Tense your bottom and relax. Maybe press your hands into your thighs. This will encourage you to lift up at the chest. Lift and roll your shoulders and turn your head from side to side. So in this position, your body should be totally balanced above on your hips. And a lot of people, you would need to turn sideways in a mirror if you do this at another time. When you think you're standing straight, people often are slightly leaning forward or slightly leaning back. Mostly people tend to lean forward and they think they're straight. So it's worth checking, and when you do that when you're seated, you think you're sitting up straight, but actually you're tensing slightly forward, which is the general response in life. People kind of curl forward slightly to meet life's challenges, and you get that reflected in the in nature, that curling in, where there's a concaveness sort of here. So we're going to come to a seated position. You can certainly have a cushion. I'm going to sit cross-legged, but if you prefer to sit in another way, or legs out, then please do. The main thing is to be comfortable. And the theme is invitation to the breath. So resting your hands comfortably on your knees, your thighs, whatever works for you. Hands up or down. Just slightly tuck your chin and grow tall so that your spine elongates. And tucking your chin to your chest just invites the breath in a slightly different way. You're beginning to calm the nervous system. And just take a couple of breaths, letting the very gentle movement that we've done settle in the body. You can experiment by just gently lifting the corners of the mouth upwards. And notice if you breathe any differently, if the air comes to the back of the throat in a different way. In quite in-depth breathing, there's a play around this area. The tongue goes to the top of the mouth and the lips curls slightly at the corners. I can feel a difference. It encourages the air to the back of the throat, which in turn, my understanding is that it can access goes, you breathe up into the head properly. And then just very gently bring your head upright and just stretch your hands lightly touching the fingertips to either side of you on the floor. And breathing in, circle the arms up, palms touch, come back down through the centre to the heart centre. And again, circling your hands upwards, touching fingertips, come down through the centre as you breathe out. And one more time as you circle your hands upwards, breathing in, palms touch, and then breathing out, bring your hands back down through the centre and touching your hands either side of you on the floor. Sliding the left hand slightly to the left. You can travel as much as you'd like. You can even bend the left elbow on the floor. Raise the right hand up so it becomes a lateral stretch. Just again feel that your body is between two imaginary panes of glass, so that you're not twisting quite so much. If anything, twist to look upwards, opening up. But that should bring you between those two sheets of glass. Bringing your tummy or lower abdomen in to press down the left hand to bring you upright. And then sliding the fingertips of the right hand as you bring the left hand up tucking the chin to the chest, stretching out. It's a lateral stretch. Almost press down with your right hand to open up to the left. Again, you're between those two imaginary panes of glass, stretching along the intercostal muscles, stretching out under your arms, and then breathing out. Lower your left arm and come to upright. Just lift and roll your shoulders. And then very, very gently come to kneeling. We're going to be doing cat-cow. And we're going to keep this quite simple. Hands are shoulder width apart. Excuse me, knees are hip width apart. And breathing in, dipping your back, either looking up or along the floor. And breathing out, rounding your back. Almost feel that someone's picking you up from the middle of your back. Chin naturally just drops to the chest. And just repeat a few more cat-cows in your own breath pattern. So you have a choice to either keep the backs of your feet flat on the floor or to tuck your toes under. Any time that you tuck your toes under, this stabilises the spine. And that applies to more advanced poses like even headstand. Not that we're going to be doing headstand. If you extend your heels, you stabilise your back, you stabilise the pose. Whereas if you stretch your toes, but the energy has the freedom to shoot up, but you need to be very firm on your balance. Still cat-cow. And then come to a flat back and just turn your hands so that they're pointing towards you. You, depending on your flexibility, your fingers are pointing towards your knees. And just gently come forwards and backwards so that you're almost putting a little bit of pressure forwards and backwards on your wrists. And then bring your hands forwards again and tucking your toes, coming, for those of you who are not doing downward dog, you might like to just turn one palm slightly inwards and just circle the wrist a couple of times, and then the same with the other wrist. Or just come to cat a couple of times. We're going to be coming to a very soft downward dog, tucking your toes as we come there. So just tuck your toes underneath. Just before we come to our downward dog, just stretch back slightly, stretching out underneath the toes. That opens the lung areas. And then come to the hands and knees and tucking the toes, come to a very soft downward dog. Just keep to cat if you're not going to do dog. And walk the dog by bending one knee and then bending the other knee. Feeling that you can widen the space between your feet. And then bend both knees back to the ground and feet wide apart, untuck your toes and come to a soft child's pose. If again this is dodgy for your knees, keep your bottom up. It's an option. So either child's pose or lifting your bottom with the elbows resting on the ground, almost in a partial puppy. As you just come forward, resting. You can also make fists with your hands to rest your forehead on your hands. And then come back to kneeling. And take your right hand, just turn it out to the right, to 10 past, quarter past, then half past. And then turn your hand back, your right hand back, and turn it inwards. You're just making a circle, but not putting too much pressure. And then just coming back, and then turn to your left hand, just turn it out to the edge of the mat, bring it to fingers to face towards you, bring your hand back to the top, and then just turn it slightly the other way. And then just come back. We don't often think about the wrists. And then just very, very gently tucking your toes. We're going to come to standing, so just lift your knees, roll up vertebra by vertebra, bending your knees and coming to standing. And on the theme of turning your hands round, it's just often this outside part of the hand that doesn't get used very much. And pressing the palms together does start to activate those outer little finger areas. And the other pose that does activate that a lot is reverse prayer, where you bring your fingers behind you. But again, that's quite tricky to do, but it does open up that area of the hand, and then just release. So come to, as we've done before, breathing in, breathing out, hands together at the heart centre. And then breathing in, hands up, stretch up. You can look forward or up, palms together. Bring them through the centre. Bend your knees. Bring your fingers to touch the floor. Hands on the shins to flat back as you breathe in. Breathe out, bend your knees, bend your elbows. Press your feet into the ground as you roll up vertebra by vertebra. Hands up, stretching your fingers, looking either forwards or up. Bring your palms through the centre, bending your knees, bending your elbows. Touching the fingertips to the floor. And then bring the palms to the shins as you breathe in with a flat back. Breathe out, bend your knees. Press your feet into the ground and roll up vertebra by vertebra to standing. And one more time, stretching the fingers up. Bring the hands through the centre. Soften the knees as you bend down, touching the fingertips to the top, to the mat, next to your feet. Breathing in, press your hands on your shins, flat back, half lift. Breathing out, soften your knees, press your feet into the ground and roll up vertebra by vertebra to standing. And this time, as we raise our hands up, bringing them through the centre and bending back down to touch the fingers on the ground. Step your right foot back and have your right knee on the ground. And then just walk your hands back. You might like to slide your left leg forward. It's going to be extending the left heel and just stretching out along the back of the left leg. So brilliant for sciatica. If you can't stretch your leg out, just bring your bottom back a little bit. And then walking your hands forward, bring your left knee back down to the ground. And then once more, stretch your right leg forward, same thing, extend the right heel and just stretch out the back of the right under calf and back of the leg. Half, almost like a stretch. And then sliding your right foot back, breathing in and breathing out, dipping your back, cat, and then rounding cow. And this time, bring your hands to the left to bring your right foot up, hands either side of your right foot. Just stretch into the right hip, allowing the right knee to go beyond the 90 degrees. And then bringing your knee back to the 90 degrees, you can move your right foot to the right, come into a half, like a crescent moon, stretching your hands up. I'm going to keep looking forward. Once you look up, which you can do, your balance tends to wobble a little bit, stretching your fingers out. And then lower your hands and palms forward so that you're opening your shoulders. Again, looking up, slightly forward or slightly up. And then breathing out, bring your hands out to either side of your front right foot. Keep your left hand where it is, the inside of your right foot. And bring your right hand to your right waist, turning to the right and opening out. Option to lift your right hand up, but equally just option to keep your right hand on your right waist and open your right shoulder. And then breathing out, hands either side, right hand either to the right of your right foot, so hands either side of your right foot. And then slide your right foot back. And come to a cat-cow again, dipping your back. And then rounding. Come to neutral, and hands now walk to the right, which gives space for your left foot to come up. Hands either side of your left foot, and just stretch into the left hip. You can let your left knee go beyond the 90-degree angle, since your body weight's being supported by your hands. But now we're going to kneel up, bring your knee back to the 90 degrees. You can have the option of moving your foot to the left slightly, pressing your foot down and coming up to a crescent moon as you lift your hands up. Looking either ahead or up is an option too. Stretching your fingers and then breathing out, lower your hands and open the palms up so that you're opening in the shoulder area here. Again, you can look straight ahead or slightly lift your chin. Bring your head upright and then come forward to hands either side of your left foot. Keep your right hand where it is, but with your left hand, place your left hand on your waist and open out to the left. Your chin, your neck should be in line, your chin can tuck in, and you can look straight ahead as you're turning or look backwards. You can optionally raise your left arm depending on where your capacity is. And then breathing out, lower your hands to either side of your left foot and slide your left leg back. So here we've got a couple of options. Again, if you're not keen on downward dog, you might not be keen on this, in which case do a couple of cat-cows. Just walk your hands forward so that you come effectively into a supported up dog with your knees on the ground, looking either ahead or up slightly. And then a next option is to cross the ankles and just lift the feet off the ground. And then you can change the crossover of your ankles with the feet still lifted, and then uncross your ankles and come back to kneeling. And then come to lying on your tummy, onto your elbows, into a very, very gentle Sphinx pose. So the elbows are on the ground, the hands are in front of you, and you're looking down between the space, and the space between your two hands. Press your elbows into the ground, almost pull your body a millimetre forwards. That will stretch out your lower abdominal area and give you space in that area. And then relax. You might like to have your knees slightly wider apart, and you can just gently wobble your bottom from side to side, a sacroiliac releaser. You can lift both feet, soles of the feet up to the ceiling, and you can just sway from side to side. Your hip might lift slightly in a windscreen wiper action. You might like to cross at the ankles and still sway from side to side. Just your ankle will move slightly as you go from side to side. And you can change the crossover of your ankles as you go again from side to side. And then just release your feet back down to the ground. Bring your knees slightly closer together. Once more, just wobble your bottom from side to side. And then the heels are facing now towards the ceiling as you slide your hands back, elbows in. We're going to come to kneeling and going to come to a very, very brief puppy pose. So elbows on the ground, bottom up high. Stretch your hands in front of you a little bit. You'll feel this in the shoulders, in between the shoulders. Head can be just towards the floor. And then slide your hands back towards you. Now we're going to come to lying on the mat with our knees bent. Feet are hip width apart. Take your time to change from lying on the front of the mat to lying on the mat. Knees are lifting upwards. And just come to a couple of pelvic tilts as you flatten the back to the ground and then just lift or just roll forward so that there's a gap underneath your lower back. Just warming up the spine in a slightly different way. And then you might like to have your feet slightly wider than hip width apart. Your hands can stay palms down on the mat or they can rest on your abdomen as you start to rock both knees from side to side. Your hip will lift as you rock, massaging across almost the top of your bottom really. And then you might like to bring your head to join in. I'm not going to give any instructions, just let your head turn naturally in the direction that you feel you'd like it to turn. So there's no prescription at all. It can turn with your knees or against your knee direction. And your hands now can stay where they are. Or you might like to just bend your elbows and have the backs of your hands resting on the floor above you, or out slightly in cactus arms, to stretch out under the arms as you just sway your knees from side to side. You might find that your head movement slows slightly if your arms are above your head, but these are all optional movements. And then come to the centre. If your arms are up above your head, lower your arms back down to alongside you. And perhaps bring your feet closer to hip width apart now. And keeping the right foot where it is, hug the left knee into the chest. Just circling the left knee as you're holding it a few times in one direction. And then circling the left knee a few times in the other direction. And holding underneath the left thigh, walk or extend the left foot up to the ceiling and extend the left heel. Just point and flex the left foot a couple of times. Waking up the foot, waking up the circulation of the body. And then circle the left ankle in one direction. And then circle the left ankle in the other direction. And then start to walk your hands up the back of your left leg, bringing the left leg towards your face. And depending on your capacity, before you lift your head up towards your knees, you might like to take support with your hand, right hand maybe, underneath your head and neck, But if not, you don't need that, then just hold your left leg and lift your head up towards the left leg. You won't go very far. And then relax your head back down. And then walk your hands or slide them back down the left leg. Hug your left knee into your chest. Place the left ankle over the right upper leg. And just sway. Your hands can be resting on your abdomen or palms down on the ground. Just sway your knees from side to side. Again, your hip will just slightly lift off the ground. And you can make that sway really quite big so that your knees almost touch the ground and your hips really lift. Or you can make the sway smaller. And again, your head has the invitation to slightly turn from side to side. It's all optional. And then very gently cross your left foot properly over your right. Lift both feet off the ground and slide your hands down your shins to hold above the ankles, so your right hand will naturally hold your left ankle and your left hand will hold your right, and just slightly hug your ankles in towards you. If you've got the longer reach, you can hold the outside of both feet, and it just opens you up at the lower back. But you hold where it's comfortable, no strain. And then when you're ready, just very gently place your right foot on the floor, uncross your left leg. Hands can be either on your abdomen or resting on the floor, palms down. As you once more sway your feet gently from side to side. Again, remembering that you can bring your head into the movement, and how far you let your knees drop to the side is up to you. And then very gently come back to the centre, keeping your left leg where it is, but please feel you can make any adjustments. Hug your right knee into your chest. And very gently just circle your right knee in one direction. And then circle your right knee in the other direction. And then dropping your hands behind your right thigh, extend your right leg to the ceiling, and point and flex your right foot a couple of times. And then begin to circle the right ankle. If ever we get back onto a plane and we're travelling, then these foot exercises are utterly brilliant for boosting circulation. And then circle your ankle in the other direction. And a strategy, or one of the strategies in preventing DVT, and obviously getting up and walking around is helpful too, but not always possible on a plane. And then just walk your hands up the back of your leg, your right leg, bringing your right leg towards you. And then optionally, you can lift your head and choose to either lift it holding onto your ankle, or lift it dropping one hand underneath your head and neck to support your head and neck so that you're not straining in any way, lifting your head up. And then just relaxing your head back down to the earth. Bending your right knee and opening it out to the right, placing the right ankle on top of the left leg. Hands are either on the abdomen or palms down. You can even bring your right hand to the inside of your right thigh just to open out the right leg and just sway both knees from side to side. Your head can join in too, moving in whichever direction feels comfortable for you. So you're swaying from side to side. And then very gently come to the centre and cross your right leg completely over your left, lifting both feet off the ground, or lifting your left foot off the ground, and sliding your hands down your front of your shins to where it's comfortable to pull your legs, your knees in towards you. You'll feel this on your right outer hip, out of thigh. It's creating space at the lower back and opening out the outer edge of the right hip. And you can play around. You might like to have your hands higher, just under your knees. That's also an option. Just subtly different movements. And then very gently lower both feet down to the ground, or lower your left foot to the ground. Uncross your right leg and place your right foot on the ground. Have your feet hip width or wider apart and just come back to swaying from side to side. Palms down or on your abdomen. As you sway from side to side, we can look at asymmetrical movement. So just raise your right arm and place the back of your right hand on the floor behind you, so that we're opening out one arm at a time. Sometimes it's easier on the body to have one movement, an asymmetrical movement. But of course, with asymmetrical movement, you've got to balance it up. And so change arms, lowering your right arm, and you might like to raise your left arm to the diagonal edge corner beyond of your mat. You should carry on swaying from side to side. People who play like golf or a lot of tennis, I call it an asymmetrical sport, but you know what I mean. They can often get imbalance on the side that they use, and that can carry on to causing issues later on when they're constantly using it. Cricketers as well, if they're bowlers and they bowl with their right hand, they can have stiffness in their right shoulder. Lowering your left arm and then hugging both knees into the chest, just rocking from side to side. Again, you can rock a little bit or you can rock right onto your elbows. It's up to you how much you want to rock. And you're also rocking across the back of your head. And then just gently come back to the centre. And this time hug your knees into your chest. Still holding your knees, let them drift away from you to arm's length. So you'll just, again, carry on just a few times, hugging your knees into your chest as you breathe out. And as you breathe in and create space, let your knees drift away from you. You're just moving up and down the lower spine in a slightly different way. Just pulsing, massaging up and down the lower part of the spine. It's right where we do that movement, that twisting and turning around the L4, L5 lumbar vertebrae, just above the sacral area, where all the twisting and heavy duty work goes on, where we can so often have lower back issues. And then carry on, still holding the knees into the chest. Slide your hands down to open your knees out to the side and hold again above your ankles. So this becomes a form of Supine Vadakanasana. The big toes won't necessarily touch, or they might do, but your feet are vaguely together, your knees are apart, and you'll feel the stretch on your inner thigh. You can stay static, or you can just slightly wobble from side to side on your spine. You won't go very far, it's just a gentle wobble. And you can stay here. Or if you like to progress to an inversion, You can hold your big toes with your second and third finger under your big toes. Again, this is all optional. And just extend your feet upwards and outwards, feeling the stretch on the inside of your leg. If you can't hold your big toes, you can hold your ankles, hold your shins. And I find it really soothing just to slightly rock from side to side. Just, again, it massages that lower back, that lower spinal area. It also stretches out along the inside of the leg, which is brilliant. And then very gently bring your legs together, bend your knees, and once more hugging the knees into the chest, rock from side to side, or really any way that works for you. And then very gently just bring the feet down to the ground, knees up to the ceiling, feet hip distance apart. And just taking the fingers of one hand, the other hand can rest on your abdomen. Just gently trace with your fingers from one side of the forehead to the other, just soothing across. With all this heavy weather and heavy rain, it can be very headache-inducing for people who are sensitive to the atmosphere. So just smoothing your fingers from one side of the forehead, tracing across to the other side, coming off at the temple, is quite a soothing action. Just a couple more times, focusing at the third eye. And then just with both hands, just very gently with the fingertips, just tap around the eyes, maybe starting at the inside brow, just smoothing or tapping around the eye socket. Again, at this time of the year, there can be hay fever gathering. I can feel at the back of my throat that I haven't got full-blown hay fever, but it's lurking. And then just very gently press your fingers into the temples either side of your head and just release and press your palms of your fingers in, and then you can just very gently circle your palms on your temples in one direction. You can reverse that direction, but you don't have to. And then just coming back to the breath, resting one hand on your abdomen, it doesn't matter which, and one hand slightly higher. If we were standing, I'd say on the chest, but you might feel comfortable with your hand slightly lower than the chest at the solar plexus area. Just taking a couple of breaths in and out. Noticing the abdomen as it rises on the inhale, and how your abdomen slightly falls away from you on the exhale. Just very gently once more roll your head or turn your head from side to side. It doesn't matter now which way you go, but again just coming back to the head going from side to side. Bring your head to centre. And while you're here, have a moment to think of a thought for the day, for yourself or somebody else. And then let that thought drift away. You've set your intention for the day. Bring your palms together and just rub them so that you're creating a friction in your hands. They become slightly warm. And then place the palms of your hands over your closed eyes. And when you're ready, open your eyes into the darkness of your hands. Then very gently let your hands slide away from your face and your eyes will come back to the light of the day. Hug one knee in and then hug the other knee in, and once more rock from side to side. And then taking your time we're going to come to a seated position, but take your time to get there so that you're not disturbing any of the energy that's been created today. And come once more to a cross-legged position. If that's not good for your knees, then come to having your knees out in front of you. Just come to touch your hands either side of you as you're seated. And once more, raise your right hand into a lateral stretch, coming with your right hand over to the left. Your left fingers walk away from you. Chin tucks in. You can bend your left elbow to the ground or keep your arms straight. Pressing your left hand into the ground to support you, lifting your right arm up and back down to the mat. And then come to the other side, lifting your left arm, stretching it over, walking your right fingers out. Once more, it's a lateral stretch, reminding us of the breath again. Come back to the centre. And then just very gently walk your fingertips slightly in front of you. Not too much, just a very slight nod forward to a forward bend. The back of the neck extends so that you're long, breathing in and out. Again, it reminds us and comes back to the original invitation to the breath, connecting with the breath, calming your nervous system, reducing any blood pressure. We've moved our limbs, we've walked through all the centres of the body. And then very gently walking the fingers back, bringing your hands to your heart, taking a bow for yourself, chin to chest. And thank you everyone very much for joining me today. Have a lovely day ahead.